In this video, we're looking at the APOC Survival Longsword. This is an Angus trim designed sword. So we have a full grip on this one, all black blade. It's got a fuller running through majority of the blade. Take a look at some specs on this one, up close looks, and also some cut testing. Let's get to it. Looking at a 45 1/2 inch overall length, 35 3/8 inches of the blade itself. This is a double-edged blade coming to a straight tip on this one. It's actually a single piece of steel, so with it being all black, it's a little bit harder to see, but we'll get it more on the up close. But this is basically a piece of steel sandwiched between the handle on each side. It has 3 screws running through it, so you could detach it and add a different handle if you chose. However, the handle on this one is pretty solid. Blade weight on this one is 3 pounds, 6.7 ounces. So this is definitely a beast of a survival longsword. I think what they're really going for is more of like a apocalyptic type of, like, you got one sword that you can bring with you type of thing. So 3 pounds, 6.7 ounces is a beast of a blade, but it being primarily a two-handed sword, it being a longsword, it's gonna have a little bit more weight to it. Blade width is 40.9 millimeters. It has a fuller running through it to take out some excess weight. So all the way up. Toward the upper third, or the last little bit of it, this is where the fuller stops, and then it is just a straight blade. There's no diamond cross section on it, but it does take some excess weight out. We don't have a pommel because obviously this is a single piece of steel. It does have a lanyard hole if you did want to attach cord to it, and it has what some people refer to as a skull crusher. So it has this point at the end, so if you did want to use the handle hypothetically for back end strikes, you do have that option. Cross guard, small cross guard, enough to where your hand will not slip up, potentially slip up, and it bows out a little bit. So it's not a straight cross guard, it does lip up a little bit. It's probably in order so that when you deliver the cut, you have a little bit more room on the hand. Steel quality on this one is 9260 high carbon steel. What's the handle made out of? It's a G10, so it's laminated G10, 2 slabs, 1 on each side, with 3 screws attaching the handle to, quite frankly, to the rest of the sword. This is a single piece of steel with 2 pieces of G10 sandwiched around it. Point of balance on this one is 4 1/8 inch from the guard. That is our balance point for this one. A little bit further back toward the guard than the Russian Shaska that we previously reviewed, so allowing for the cuts and thrust for this one. I like the length of the handle as well because you can choke up on it if you chose, if you want your hands a little bit closer together, but you also have the option to widen that out a little bit if you wanted to play more of a centerline guard, depending entirely on what you're doing for your cut testing. Grip length of the G10 handles is 10 1/4 inches. It does belly out a little bit toward the end of the handle, toward the skull crusher, so it is a little bit thicker toward the end. It does taper and then belly out a little bit more toward the forefinger. So the skinniest part of it is toward the middle. The very end is the thickest, and then right here you've got a pretty standard grip for a long sword like this. Looking at a hard plastic Kydex sheath, Kydex Scabbard, whichever you really want to say with that. It has 2 notches, 1 notch here and 1 notch here, and that is where you're getting the blade retention on the scabbard. So a little bit of a pull. There are 2 holes in the handle, one right here and one right here. So as you snap this in, it locks into place. You do have the option to run cord or run even a sword hanger through this one. The holes on this one are smaller, but we do have a lot of accessories at kultofathena.com in order to accommodate that. If you did want to wear this below the hip, as if you were really carrying that, you could also potentially rig this onto a backpack as well. The edge on this one is categorized as sharp, so this is considered a battle-ready option. I will say that the edge pulls only a little bit, so on the cut testing, we're not going to get the same type of slicing action that we would get with an edge profile like a katana. You may get a hack on this one, even if you soak the tatami mats overnight, or even for a couple of days, which is what we do when we do tatami mat cut testing, is we soak them at least for 1 to 2 nights over to make sure they're thoroughly soaked through to get a proper cut. But the edge has a little bit of a pull to it. It's not hair shaving sharp, but it does allow you to get a good cut. From here, let's take a look at this one in the scabbard, out of the scabbard, up close look, get some fine details of this blade. G10 handle on this one. We've got 3 screws running through. It's a very, very thick stock on this one, very thick tang, but it's clearly not just a tang, it's the entire blade. There's the APOC logo. We'll see the attachments. You can add a sword hanger if you chose, or some cord. All the way up to the tip. You'll notice that we have this cutout here going on each side, removing some excess weight. This one being over 3 pounds, doesn't need really more weight. And then the cutouts in the handle, a little bit more up close. Those notches on either side right here, they fit right into the scabbard, so then they lock in nice and tight. A little bit of wear from pulling it out of the scabbard, but that's pretty normal. And of course we have the all black blade to prevent corrosion and things like that. All right, in the scabbard, we'll see again the attachments here, options for running cord, or even a more of a narrow sword frog if anything. You could also just get a sword frog and kind of attach it around. There's the retention again. The guard is exposed on either side. It's not a flat, it's a more of a flat black, but it's kind of speckled. Again, more of a hard plastic Kydex scabbard for this one, which just matches the whole design of this being more of a survival longsword. And if we come back over to the handle, looking at the skull crusher, it's not super pointy. It does have a good angle to it, and you could run cord through here if you chose. And then again, this is really just one piece of steel, one full tang survival longsword. All right, we got some up close looks at this blade and the scabbard out of the scabbard. Let's take a look at the cut testing. Again, not a hair shaving sharp edge. However, it's still going through the tatami. Let's take a look at how this blade performed. Okay, this is off of the first cut. Again, this is a functional edge. Doesn't mean it's going to be hair shaving sharp. However, got a really good first cut. Second cut, you can see from a wider view, you wouldn't really be able to see that, but you'll see that again, we're getting about halfway through, even with more of a functional edge. Let's try and finish out this tatami mat. All right, so we've pretty much destroyed this thing as it falls over. Split it in half, virtually in half, right through there. The bottom of this is basically falling apart. And that's why it's important to soak these. You don't want to do this with dry tatami because then you're not going to get that great of cuts. So you can see with a functionally sharp edge, maybe not razor sharp, but a functionally sharp edge, you can see how deep these cuts are getting for how wide this blade is. Thanks for joining me for this video on the APOC Survival Longsword and Angus trim design. We saw the cut testing, saw some up close looks at the blade in the scabbard and out of the scabbard. If you like this blade, let us know in the comments below. The link to buy it is in the description below this video. As always, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and we'll see you in the next one.